Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Power Together forum. It's about 8:30, a little after 8:30. I want to promise to be on time, and so if you can, folks can hear us, get outside, come on into the room, and we'll go ahead and get started. Again, I'm Russ Peden. I'm the Director of Properties and Concessions for the airport, and I'll be your host for this morning activities, and looking forward to sharing our story, and also later on to meet with you in our networking hall. And we've got a great agenda for everyone today, and hopefully you're able to get something out of this from everyone's individual perspective. To go ahead and get things started, I want to introduce the chairman of the Capital Region Airport Commission, Mr. Wayne Hazard, to please come up with his opening remarks.
Well, good morning, and thank you for being here today. As a member of the Capital Region Airport Commission, I want to welcome everybody here. And we get accused, of running the airport. And the truth of the matter is, our employees, vendors, and the like are who actually run the airport. Some couple of years ago, with diversity being as important as it is to us as a commission, a couple of years ago we had a longtime CEO retire, and we sent out requests for people to come run the airport all over the country, and we had a lot of people show up. And luckily for us, we were smart enough to hire Perry Miller over here, who comes up with things like this for us to be able to make sure that our airport still is a model of what airports should be. And I'm so proud to say that every time I get into anything that's a little confusing, Perry always has an answer. And so we're very proud that he has. So thank you, Perry, for putting this all together. So again, as a member of the Airport Commission, I want to thank you all for being here. I made a comment earlier that the hardest things to fix or to know about are the things you don't know about. And I'm hoping you'll use this book and you'll pay attention to what's available to you to help us enhance what we have at the at the airport. So thank you again for being here, and I'll turn it over to the boss over here. He can tell you a little more about it. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. I am so glad you're here. Let me reintroduce myself. My name is Perry Miller. I'm the president and CEO of the Capital Region Airport Commission, which is responsible for running your airport, Richmond International Airport. That distinguished gentleman is one of my 14 bosses, and he's one of the primary reasons I'm here. He was on the selection committee, so a round of applause for him. Look, I want to recognize and thank each of you for participating in today's Business Opportunity Forum. The very fact you're here, your presence today suggests that you are interested in knowing more about the opportunities that exist at the Richmond International Airport, and I appreciate that. In 2020, me and my colleagues, we developed the strategic plan for the Richmond International Airport. It's called Serve 2025. And in that strategic plan are 6 key strategic goals or objectives. The acronym POWER comes from those goals. So the goals are, 1, the passenger experience. We want to make sure that every passenger has an exceptional experience through innovation, convenience, and excellence. Then we have the optimizing efficiencies to reduce costs through the use of technology and the likes. We want to be an employer of choice where we attract and retain value team members. We want to elevate the Richmond region by being a go-to partner. One of the reasons we're here today with the RVA community. It took me a minute to get that RVA thing. I still hang on to the new thing, but now I know what RVA means. And then the last thing we want to do is pursue and secure non-aeronautical revenue opportunities. So that acronym POWER comes from those 6 initiatives. P for the passenger experience, O for our airport community, W for our workplace culture, E for efficiency, and the RVA, the R is you, RVA. So we want you to know that economic development is top of mind for me and my team. And acting on executing these initiatives is really important for me. We want all of our customers to have an exceptional experience through convenience, innovation, and excellence, and I want you to be a part of that. That's why this is important today. There is so much work to do as we go forward, and I am very optimistic that today, this collaboration will result in new insights, new opportunities, new partnerships, so that we can move forward with our strategic plan in moving the business, the community, and commerce to advance the Richmond region. I hope that you achieve a deeper understanding of what the Commission has to offer, and that my desire is that we engage you, the local communities, small, minority, and woman-owned firms to embrace the opportunities that exist at the airport. So I'm going to turn the program back over to Russ so he can facilitate this venture, but thank you all for being here. It's really important to me, and I think this is the start of something big. Thank you again.
Thank you, Perry, very much for those insightful remarks. We'll go ahead and get started here. Again, we've got, a nice agenda for the day. Go ahead. We're going to talk about our goods and services, opportunities, construction, a little break in the action here, and then get into our concessions discussion, and we'll have concluding remarks, and then the important networking opportunity. So I look forward to that. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and get started. How does the airport do its purchasing? How do we get involved in interacting with the public from the standpoint of buying goods and services? We are a decentralized environment, meaning there's not a one-stop procurement office. It's up to the individual departments in the airport, whether it be the construction, whether it be maintenance, whether it be public safety. Each of the departments handles their own procurement. So when you're dealing with the airport, and we're going to meet folks here shortly, and then also later on our networking opportunity, realize that you're talking to the person who actually is doing the buying, the person who's putting together the solicitation, person who's helping to run that, and then picking the companies, and then dealing with you all from that standpoint. So it's decentralized. Our key is, and how we get this information out, how we communicate the opportunities to everyone, is via EVA. Just out of curiosity, I have a hand, or raise of hands. Who all is not registered in EVA? So we're down to, I remember when I first had this conversation when EVA came about, a room full of people similar sized. Most of the hands were up. What is EVA? Well, for most of you, it's become a standard practice within the Commonwealth of Virginia, and that's the method of how we buy. It's a portal that you go into, set up, and then you're able to see the solicitation. So we use EVA, so if you're not registered, that's the key point. For those who are here that are not registered, you're not going to see these opportunities pop up. We have them on our website, but the EVA portal is our primary way to where we communicate the needs for purchases or going forward. So look at that. Also, and just an example, when I first started doing this, we maybe hit a couple 100,000 hits in terms of reaching out to companies. We're now well in excess of hundreds of thousands of communications in terms of outreach with companies. So it's a very successful program for us, and we're happy to be part of that. We also give the flexibility to the buyers and our commission staff to up to $2,000. I know it's not a big deal, but a lot of times these small purchases are what we see, and they're able to do that without using the EVA process. They have that flexibility given to the buyer for the up to $2,000. They can just go to that vendor and engage. Above $2,000 to $50,000, we utilize the EVA quick quote process. basically you're getting 3 quotes. You're getting that type of concept through EVA, and you're getting a quote. Above 50,000, it is more of the traditional, the solicitation, the bid, the RFP. Again, through the EVA process is how we communicate that need. Again, for those who are not part of it, please, I cannot emphasize the desire or the need to register in the EVA system. If you have any questions on that, I'd be happy to talk to you about that offline, a little more in depth, but please consider that. And again, you've got the website on the slide. Okay, a little more on what we're buying. Obviously, you can tell large institution like an airport, you're looking at a capital program of some size. And we'll talk a little more on that in a second. We'll have our capital program director talk about that. But typically, our large projects, there's going to be some amount of federal funding. Being the airport, as we get engaged in these businesses or in these projects, they'll have a federal funding component to it. And with the federal funding component will be our requirement, our obligation, our duty to, with federal funds, to have our DBE program. And that will entail looking at the program, looking at the projects, and then developing goals for those projects. The key thing on the DB program, again, is for those companies who are eligible, is get that certification. And just happens to have today, I have some folks from the Virginia Supplier or Small Business and Supplier Diversity Department who are here to talk more in the networking hall for those of you who are interested on the program for certification. And what are we looking for in terms of professional services? Again, everything from our architectural engineers to environmental consultants. We're also looking for financial services and supplier diversity. I bring it up because my long-term supplier diversity contract is coming to an end, and that'll be an opportunity for somebody, some company in the near future that'll be to propose on that. So, but also looking at through our needs and through the EVA system, basically we're looking for a new bank. We're also looking for insurance services. We're also looking for East Side development. There is an RFI just went out on EVA for basically planning to develop the east side of the airport for a fixed base operator. What does that mean if you're in general aviation? There's potential, we're looking to develop the east side, and we started the groundwork on that, so that's via the EVA system. So again, everything from all the services involved in planning and developing a future home for fixed base operators at the airport. Small capital projects. As an airport community, there's the need for maintenance, all types of maintenance. And these small projects, they may not be the multi-million-dollar job, but they're also the lifeblood of what drives and protects and maintains the airport. So you've got everything involved from maintenance to the goods and services, the operations, support services. All of that is necessary to keep the airport community working. And I want to point out something, excuse me, that when you were invited to this, we included a booklet that was part of the communications. And you might have had an opportunity to get a booklet when you came up today at the counter and got your name tag. This booklet is really your conduit to the airport. I can't emphasize enough, if you didn't get it on the download, if you didn't pick it up today, we'll be sending it out again after the event as a link to it or via email. And it's really your understanding. I could have slides of all the data here and it'd bore you, but the booklet allows you to peruse, review, gives you a snapshot of what we're doing by department, what they're buying, how much, who the people are, who these buyers are. And it's your takeaway. If you left here today without looking at this, without asking questions about this, without talking to somebody about in this booklet, that would be your loss. So I really suggest that you look at that, because that's your ticket to the airport commission. I also want to take a quick second is to give you just a visual of who these buyers are. I've got a small group in the back room. I'm going to ask them to stand up. And Brad, Chief Fitzgerald, these gentlemen here, and Matt, I know you can stand up too, Matt. They represent airport maintenance, airport fire department, electrical department, automotive maintenance, utility and grounds, and airport police. An opportunity to, and they are the names you're going to see in this booklet. And they're going to have a table in their networking hall next door. And during the course of the morning, an opportunity to meet these gentlemen and to talk more about what they're doing, what you have, what your interests are, and maybe an opportunity for that dialogue. So I look forward to ask you to talk to these folks, and they took time out of their day, as you did, to interact. I also want to take a second now and to turn us over to our capital program manager, who happens to be our chief operating officer, John Rutledge. And I want to ask him to come up, and he's going to share a few words with you regarding our capital program and expand on that a little further.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. That is a picture of our projected capital program for the next 3 years, including this year. May not be totally inclusive, and the capital program is a dynamic thing. As opportunities arise, we seek to take those opportunities as they come. It's a mixture of airfield, landside, and vertical projects. One of the big vertical projects, I guess you could say, right, call it a vertical project. We're going to advertise on December 5th for renovations of our Federal Inspection Service facility, which is the customs facility. So be on the lookout for that. We've also, next year, a new aircraft rescue and firefighting station on the airfield. The renovation of the rental car counters in the terminal building, which would include a enclosed walkway from, if you're familiar with the terminal building out to the rental car garage. Also, with the civil projects, the relocation of some taxiways, major project, taxiway E-connector on the airfield, some aprons, concrete and asphalt, and relocation of some taxiway connectors that the FAA tells us sometimes are in conflict with what their design guidelines show. And then you'll also see a number of other smaller capital projects. And the gentleman that Russ talked to you just a moment ago from the maintenance and facilities side will be handling some of those projects. So they would be glad to talk to you about those. And I'll also be in the exhibit hall to also discuss any of these projects in detail they would like to. We also have here our on-call civil consultant, CPNY, and our on-call architectural consultant, Gresham Smith, that they can provide some details on those projects also. And just to look, this is I know it's a little bit busy, but this is our future airport layout drawing, which shows a lot of the projects that are coming up. This is a terminal building. The FIS will be taking place here, renovations. We've got also the civil projects along this runway and taxiway. This is the short runway at Richmond. This is the long runway, terminal building area here. Russ talked about the east side development. The east side of the airport was formerly the Virginia Air National Guard base. That base closed in 2009. That property belongs to the airport. We built a road over there and looking for development on that side of the airport as a additional source of revenue for the airport. So that will be coming up soon. And once again, I'd be glad to talk to you about any of these. Hopefully, with the recently passed and signed into law infrastructure bill, will have a significant impact on what the airport is able to do from the federal side with AIP, Airport Improvement Program funded projects. That starts this year and lasts for 5 years. When that money comes forward, we'll see what Congress does or when it's allocated. But we're looking forward to that. That could have a huge impact on the community. And with that, I'd like to introduce Ed Wessel. Ed is the president of Highway Paving. They are under contract with us for we're expanding the Concourse B apron. It's about a $19 million project. They were the successful bidder. Ed's been with Highway 23 years. They started out as a specialty contractor, concrete paving, and have evolved into a full-service general contractor. They've done substantial work at Charlotte, at Nashville, I believe, Langley. And he's going to come and tell you a little bit about how they do things and give us a little background on them. So if you'd welcome Ed Wessel, president of Highway Paving.
Good morning, everyone. So we're Highway Paving. We just got the project over at Richmond Airport here this last year, successful bidder, and we'll start things off here in the kicking off with submittals and subcontracts and things like that. We'll start here early in the winter. But yeah, I've been with Highway 23 years, and through that we've seen a lot of changes. How we started at Highway Paving, I literally answered an ad in a newspaper for a project engineer. P.O. Box 550, signed up, okay, cool. 20 years later, I'm the president of Highway Paving, so it's a long apprenticeship program, but you can get there, you know, you can do it. But in those 50 years, like I said, I've seen a lot of changes, and with this here, like what John said, we were just a concrete paver. We did interstate work for years, grew into a little bit of a bigger contractor doing highway work, and in the last 15 years or so, we've really been in the aviation space, and it's kind of our niche, and we do very well at that. We've worked, like John said, at Charlotte Airport. We've been there since '08, built their several runways and taxiways and aprons. Nashville International, we just finished their new rehab their runway, and hope to grow here with you guys at Richmond and help you with these capital projects coming and other maintenance. But we are a full-service contractor. We do concrete paving, not the black stuff, the asphalt. We don't mess with that. We'll sub that out. But with that, we like to partner with contractors that believe in our core values: respect, integrity, and commitment. And we want to be around. We have it in our little emblem there, but we believe in that. And so we treat people fairly. We don't, stick them on things and don't pay them our bills and all that. We've been very fortunate for all these years. Never had a claim with any airport or any litigation. We never had to go to litigation with any of our subcontractors or things like that. We believe in that. So we feel we can always work through these problems together. Typical things that we subcontract out are for DBEs, pavement markings, electrical. Like here in Richmond, we only have 2 DBE contractors, but electrifiers, we're excited to work with them, or they do good work. And then Bullseye will do the fence work. But typically we'll sub out the erosion control, things of that nature, pavement marking. Hauling's a big thing. It's been harder and harder to get people to get our goods and services, our trucks, aggregates, cement, to our plants, to the jobs, and that's a big opportunity I see when it's, get a couple of truck drivers, and it's hard to get. You can't find them now as it is. But so with that, we've also usually in our meeting these goals, whatever they set, they're always different. Some are 10%, 15, 20. We always meet the goal at bid time, and typically we do follow through, meet them in our projects too. We always meet our DBE goals, and sometimes you got to be a little creative and have to give some of our own work away to meet these goals, and sometimes that's not that easy. But in this day and age is what you got to do. So we look forward to working with all of you this year, and hopefully future years, maybe 4, 5, 10 years, who knows? Like I said, we've been working in Charlotte since '08, and our company's out of Columbus, Ohio, so we're pretty nomadic. So, but anyhow, go Bucks, right? I'm from Pittsburgh. I'm a Penn State grad, so okay, we got to do. Shouldn't be saying that out too loud, but yeah, looking forward to working with all you here in the next year or two, and then I have a little corner over there. Come by and say hi, and we'll talk some more. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you, Ed, appreciate those comments, that insight. And again, do take advantage. Ed will be here throughout the morning, and if you have any questions or you wanted to talk to him a little more detailed about opportunities, future opportunities, introducing yourself, please take advantage of that. We are moving rather quickly this morning, and I wanted to, because we're about ready to go into a break as we transition into our concession discussion, but if there are any immediate questions I can help answer. If not, we're going to jump into a short break as we change over. Yes, sir. Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you, Perry. We do have 2 microphones here to facilitate so everybody can hear. I've got a gentleman coming behind you here to get you set up.
You got it. Yeah, just a quick question. I use Amtrak a lot, originally from the Baltimore area, and they go right up to P.O.W.E.R. I was wondering if that was in the plans, the Amtrak with the new infrastructure bill is a project that y'all may be looking at that it could stop there along the lines there at the airport.
Thank you. We're not directly involved with Amtrak, but I know I did read that recently there was discussion about having improvements to our stations, and I'll let John might want to comment a little more on that.
We've had internal discussions about that quite often, and I would also say that that was studied with the airport studied it a number of years ago, even before my time at the airport. I think we would love that, and we have space to do something with that, but the logistics and the costs associated with getting that to the airport are pretty incredible. Not that we wouldn't, and we will continue to look at that, but I'm not sure it's anything that's going to happen real quick, and there'd have to be money to do it.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I was just wondering, the capital project on the screen, was that an update from what's in the pamphlet?
Yes.
Yes, some of it's updated, and it's going to be dynamic, and I can provide that information if you'd like. It's just things change, and
I just saw some left off that you have here in your pamphlet.
yeah, and that may not be totally inclusive of what's in there. It is it appears at this point that it will virtually double our airport program from the FAA with the new infrastructure bill, which will have an impact on when those projects fall in our 5-year plan, which impacts that 3-year plan. Big things move slowly sometimes, so it may be an issue of number one, with the FAA, you've got to do design work, or you've got to do environmental work first before you even get under grant, and then you've got to do design work, then you got to bid it, and then you got to get it under contract. So the money's there. We're going to proceed forward. It just sometimes those things take time. Yes, ma'am.
You guys have probably noticed that there's a little bit of a difficulty hiring people. Okay, so what I've noticed is that when you respond to bids on EVA, the buyers tend to think that you can bid so low that it's almost impossible to pay the employees to do the work. We use an outside buying employment agency, and laborers to mow grass or janitorial work will not even apply unless they're getting at least $15 an hour. So when we bid, and we bid on a contract, and you're wanting our guys to come to your facility 5 days a week, and you want to pay $1,000 a month, it just can't be done. We bid on a few contracts, and our prices appeared ridiculous to the successful bidder, but we wondered, how can they even do this? How are they doing this? So I guess my statement is more of a statement than a question, that you want to look at it realistically, and someone has to pay the gas, the insurance, the hourly wages, the benefits, and there's no way for us to be successful if you're only going to choose the person that bids the lowest, who probably sends folks that don't do a good job or folks that quit or, so just kind of consider that when you're reviewing your bids and selecting those successful bidders.
Thank you.
Yeah, Milan Tran from the Virginia Asian Chamber of Commerce. I compliment that business owner question, and my insight is to follow up with that. You state that one of the things that you can do better during this economy from the airport commission perspective is to be creative. Maybe the commission can provide some development education for suppliers, things like this, but helping them to think creative and finding resources to help them develop, because hiring is the biggest issue, and I don't know how, what are some of the resources the commission can provide to small minority businesses when they have to bid and compete with larger size companies and cannot do what this business owner is saying. So development of suppliers, I think, is very critical. Thank you.
Thank you, Milan. Part of the, oh, sorry. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
So my question is probably specifically for Mr. Rutledge. My company provides total building commissioning services. And my question is, when you embark on the larger construction projects that involve additions or new building, which contains mechanical, electrical, and plumbing equipment and facility, is commissioning a part of that project? I assume it would be above a certain size or scope. And if so, is commissioning contracted directly by the airport, or do you require the general contractors to?
Typically, the commissioning would be done through our on-call, through the CACM services contract that we would have with the engineer or the architect. So we would not contract that directly, but it'd be contracted through the consultant.
Through the consultant. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Just a quick comment on that regarding the pricing on the bids. By the commission accepting the state standards in terms of procurement on purchasing, we choose the low bid environment. We're driven by that. If the commission was to make a decision to change, it would require commission action to say, we're going to change our purchasing methods. But right now, what's in place and what drives what we do is a low bid. That's where we're set up. But I do hear what you're saying in terms of that pricing and that sensitivity to that. And also, Milan, your question regarding supplier development, key things. Any other questions that we can? Yes, ma'am. There's a microphone that John will.
Thank you. My name is Doc Webster with P.O.W.E.R. My company works a lot with the federal government, and some agencies adopt the technically acceptable lowest costs as their contract awards, and there are probably a 50% failure rate when that happens. So when it really depends on what type of services or support you need where the lowest bid applies. For instance, buying equipment where you can actually evaluate, like for like. But when you're looking at professional services or support, there's a variable in terms of the different rate of skill sets, personal character in terms of, work, everything like that. And especially with today's labor shortages and supplies, I would encourage the commission to reevaluate how you evaluate contract awards, because lowest bid actually may end up costing you more with failure of projects.
And a lot of times we don't think about it, because the person that, in the end, is the customer customer that takes the hit?
Well, I mean, it's the taxpayers, right? Us.
I can speak ever so briefly on that, but regarding the professional services, that's typically through a proposal process, where we'll have the definition, the requirements, what they're looking for, and that to be evaluated. On our construction type projects is typically what we see, and that is the low bid environment.
Well, as a contractor, plays in the low bid realm. I don't like it either, believe me. But part of it is too, like I said, we worked at different airports. And in North Carolina, for instance, they will pre-qualify their concrete paving contractors. So you don't get somebody who's building your sidewalk for your building, comes out and trying to pour 18 inches of concrete. So that's one way you can, the prices might come up a bit, but you're going to get the quality you want. And your comment too about the labor, believe me, I deal with it all the time. And then we're basically a union contractor. We work a lot through the South. So we've been creative how we about do that. We make sure benefits get back to our home local for guys and all like that. But you can't pay people $15 an hour anymore. You go to Amazon or Walmart and make $15 an hour, right? Sign me up. Who wants to shovel concrete behind a paver all day or lay brick or dig a ditch? But so it's not just y'all feeling it. We feel it too throughout the industry. It's everywhere. But that's what I want to say about the low bid environment. It's terrible.
Thanks, Ed. We'll remember that.
Good morning. I'm Sherelle Talia Farrell with the Small Business Administration. We can't change the rules for the airport, but we do have resources that are available to assist small businesses with development, counseling, capital, and things of that nature. So please reach out and we can assist you. We are a federal agency free to the public.
And I will say, not to the extent perhaps that you guys are suffering under it, but we feel the same crunch from a hiring standpoint that you guys are going through. So we feel your pain.
One thing we're doing, as I mentioned, with the east side development for the future FBO relocation and developing a general aviation facility, we are using the RFI as going out to the community, going out to the industry to get their input, get their comments that will help us build a RFP that will go out next spring that I think will take industry comments on how we should structure that document. And so that's our first attempt. We have not done that in my recollection. I've been with the airport 24 years. But we're using this process now to engage. So to your point about talking to the community, it's a first step. It's a complicated project. It requires moving to entrenched businesses that may or may not be there in the future. It's now guaranteed that the incumbents are going to win. But moving to major industries that are on each end of the airport, and then to move them to the east side into a new facility, it's a significant undertaking for the commission. But one that supports the future capital program. But that RFI is, again, a first attempt to talk to the community. Yes, ma'am.
What's she saying?
We can't hear Nancy, but I hear what you say.
In order for the public to comment on and be engaged in the RFI that you just mentioned, where would one find that information?
We have that right now. It's published in the EVA. So you can see that there. We also have that on our website.
Okay. Is it also possible now that we have the supplier diversity system to send that out to the community through that system? Just a question.
We can certainly look at that. That system that Nancy refers to is the airport recently purchased the acronym is B2G. And what that is, basically is what brought you all here today. We networked out. EVA would not let us communicate through that portal to outreach. And so what we did, we had provided a system to help us with supplier diversity and supplier diversity compliance. And one of the tools was it basically taps into every database in the country at airports that manages supplier diversity. And so to reach out to you all and brought you here today, it was a blast that went out to over 50,000 companies. And out of the 50,000, we had 8,000 hits. And out of the 8,000 hits, I had close to 300 people who decided to come and take an interest and to show up here today. So granted, it had a blast, but it came through, and that was utilizing technology to reach out to you all that a lot of faces I don't recognize, some I do, but it's a new way, and that way is a method, another method utilizing the NAICS codes, or North American Industrial Classification codes, to go out and talk to specific outreach to companies or of interested parties on particular projects. Anything else before we jump to break? Because when we come to break, the aforementioned Nancy is going to have her show here and talk about concessions. But there's an opportunity, what we've talked about so far. We're blessed, fortunate, lucky, whatever term you want to use, to have a lot of our partners on the construction side next door. Mr. Wessel, who was kind enough to share a few words with us with high-tech paving, or highway paving, excuse me, highway paving, but to we've got folks who provide our engineering services, our architectural services. They are next door, and they'd be glad to at least interact, talk to them, what they're doing with us right now, in terms of potential opportunities, just to meet them. Those are all term contracts. There's, at some point in time, John will have to look at potential for RFPing for those services. So again, you're talking to people right now who currently have those roles. We have a good team, but it's by design. At some point, it has to be opened up for opportunity. And again, that's managed through John Rutledge. And they're next door, so they'll be happy to talk with you, share their insights, and so take advantage of that as you like. Unless there are any other questions, we're definitely early, but I think what this will turn into is an opportunity to maximize your networking opportunity and stop listening to me, but listen to people who are on the know in terms of next door in the various trades, in the various businesses, and also our airport staff. So that is the key part for today. So I'm going to without any more questions, I'm going to let us do about a 10-minute break. We're going to reset and then get into concessions. So please be back in about 10, 15 minutes. We'll put a reminder out, but thank you so far, and look forward to seeing you in a few minutes. Yes.
Yeah, this is one you'll like too. It's just moving forward. And the red is usually
Look, I'm technology challenged.
We'll do fine. We'll find a different position so I can get more pictures, because otherwise I'm getting like the left side of every speaker's face.
We have to sit on both sides.
I might come up to the middle. Straight.
We're going to go ahead and get started here momentarily, so if you want to take your seats. Well, as we turn to the next section or the second half of the presentation, we're going to focus a lot more on the concession program. And you're going to find this next section is going to be, it's going to be very informative. I think you're going to really appreciate it. It definitely explains how we do things, how we derive the goals that go behind the concession opportunities that are coming up. You think you're going to find it very informative, number-driven, and very helpful. But also, the networking hall remains open, so if you're looking at those construction or those goods and services from the airport, folks will be next door, but also, so if you wanted to do that as well, if you wanted, please feel free to walk over. But we're going to focus on concessions, and with that, I want to turn it over to Ms. Nancy West. And Nancy has been helping me with the airport on this role for many, many years. And we've had a very successful partnership, and so I'm very helpful, very thankful for her support to the commission and in terms of helping the concession community overall, as well as the construction side. So with that, Nancy West.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. Again, I hope you all had a good break and learned a lot of good things this morning, and we'll take advantage because I did. That's why I have been with the airport a long time. I'm a real small business, and I do concentrate on, the diversity programs at airports and helping concessionaires and contractors and a lot of different people through my work. So I've been honored to work for the airport and still love what I do. So with that, we're going to talk this morning about what's called the Airport Concession Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program. It is a program that is regulated by the federal government through the U.S. Department of Transportation. And it's designed to help companies that want to participate in airport concessions. And any airport that receives federal grants has to have an ACDBE program. So I don't know how familiar some of you are with this federal program. It's similar to the federal DBE program, but it's focused directly on concessions. And in every state, if you want to participate as an ACDBE, you have to be certified as an ACDBE in that state. So this morning we're going to talk about the goals for the airport's concession program. And every 3 years, the airport has to set triennial goals for ACDBE participation. And what we do in terms of setting those goals is we look at what the airport currently has in terms of concessions operations to determine if the goal that they have set for small business participation is still a good goal. And we look at new opportunities, and there are a lot of new opportunities this year. In the goal-setting process, the US DOT requires us also to establish market areas for participation. And the market areas may not always be the same because of the nature of the concession. For example, in the food business, you wouldn't just set a local market area because it's based on who's been interested. Those market areas are based on who has been seeking your opportunities and who receives most of the revenue from those opportunities. So we look at a number of different sources of information to determine that. You know, the airport's record, who have been previous seekers of those opportunities and where most of that money is going. A market area for, let's say, a shoe shine concession would probably be local. It's a smaller opportunity, and folks who tend to go after those opportunities have been local. So market areas will be different, and you'll see this as I go along in the presentation. And then we have to establish two goals, one for car rental concessions and one for all the other concessions. It's a federal requirement. The federal government did that because the car rental concessionaires are the largest generators of revenue on the airport, and if you include them in your entire base, it makes your goal setting much smaller, a much lower number, so they have a separate goal. And the goal is normally set for car rentals based on goods and services because there are not ACDBE-owned car rental agencies that are certified, or even minorities or women in the area that do that. And it's true across the country. Most airports do set their goals for car rental based on those companies' purchases of goods and services. And then the goals that are set for all the other concessions are based on the revenues that are generated in most cases from those concession opportunities. There are a few exceptions, things like management contracts, like your parking management. Unless the airport thinks that we're going to find a parking management firm that's an ACDBE, we can't even include those dollars in our base to set the goal. But that's just an example. And it's a two-step process where the initial goal calculation, which is based on numbers. It's basically numbers. And that first part of that goal calculation is based on the availability of small businesses. And I say small businesses because when we set goals, some of the tips that the federal government gives us is don't just look at firms that are certified, and I don't. I look at, and when I say certified, I mean certified as ACDBEs. You look at minority-owned firms, woman-owned businesses. You look, depending on the market area, for example, you have to look beyond certification to really come up with a good basis for your initial goal calculation. And that initial goal calculation also includes all other firms, and we use county business, the Census Bureau county business patterns data to determine all firms in a market area. So there are a lot of sources that are used in that calculation. And then we have to do what's called a breakout of race-conscious and race-neutral participation. What that means is for race-neutral participation, the federal government wants you to do that first, and that means use means that will generate participation from small businesses, not just ACDBEs. Things like through training, through technical assistance, through mentor programs, things like that, so you're reaching a broader area. And you also have to look at what have you done in the past. If you've set goals that are race conscious, which means those are specific goals for ACDB participation, and you keep exceeding them, you have to really go back to a race neutral environment. You can't keep setting goals when you're getting the participation from the small business community, from ACDBEs that you're seeking to meet your overall goal. And the reason we're here today is this public consultation on these goals. So I hope that all of you will ask questions about the goal setting as we go along. And then once we get public input, we have to summarize and tell the federal government, you know, this is the methodology we use to set the goals. This is what the public said about our goals. We submit it to them. They don't approve goals. What they approve is the methodology. So if they see something in the airport's methodology that, that's not quite right, you need to go back and do that. But until, if they don't have any comments, the airport implements those goals. All right, so we're going to first talk about the non-car rental opportunities that are anticipated over the next 3 years. And these are new opportunities. These are contracts that are currently in place that will expire sometime during the goal-setting period, which is fiscal years 2022 through 24. And you see next to each one of these opportunities, you'll see different words: national, terminal advertising services. That's the market area for terminal advertising. And the reason it is because there are very few companies, I think there's maybe 1 or 2 companies that are ACDBE certified. That's one reason. But the other reason is that when you look at the seekers of opportunities at Richmond International Airport and in the advertising industry generally, these companies are national firms. And what I mean by that is they do work nationwide. You've probably heard of Clear Channel and Departure Media, companies like that. They do work all over, you know, the U.S. And then you have the executive sedan irregular route service. And there again, the same methodology. I mean, that market area is the city of Richmond and the counties of Chesterfield and Henrico. And I always say that wrong, and people from here laugh at me when I say Henrico. So if I'm not pronouncing it right, it's because I'm from Northern Virginia. So, and then you have your parking and shuttle bus management services. That market area is Virginia, Maryland, and DC. And snack and beverage vending, city of Richmond, the counties of Chesterfield and Henrico, and then taxi dispatch. And you see that Hanover County is included in that market area because there have been seekers of those opportunities over the years in those counties. And you remember at the beginning we talked about the step 1, the initial goal calculation. This is where step 1 starts. It's based on the relative availability of ACDBEs for these new non-carbon opportunities. And when you look at these numbers, they're not just ACDBE certified firms, and they're based on each market area. And as I said, you know, terminal advertising, that was a national market area. Sources of information came from, you know, the FAA's own, they have a national directory of companies. And that is how many companies in this entire United States that are certified in that NAICS code, 33 in the whole country, to provide terminal advertising. And you have to divide that by the total firms in the market area, which is the whole US that do that, and you come up with a percentage availability. So it's all numbers driven. Irregular route service, you know, that source, one of the sources was the Virginia Department of Small Business and Supplier Diversity Directory. In it, they have 2 directories, actually. They have the DBE, ACDBE directory, and they have what's called the SWAM directory, Small Women and Minority Directory. So looking at all those sources, there was one firm. So, and I mean, same methodology for each one of those. And so you come up with a base figure and the relative availability based on those calculations yielded 1.39%. And that's just for new opportunities now. So then you have to look at all of the opportunities. And remember I said at the beginning that Non-car rental concessions are based on the gross revenues of generated from those concession opportunities. And so when I took all the estimated gross receipts, these are all the concessions that the airport has, including the new ones I just mentioned. And you'll notice that it says 0% ACDB participation at the end of most of them. And that is because when I looked at the availability of firms and parking management, we can't include the revenue because of the crazy rule that doesn't allow us to, but some of these opportunities don't expire, number one. Number two, there are not companies like in the baggage cart business anymore that are ACDB certified. That has gone away many years ago, and it's an existing contract. Terminal advertising is an anomaly. Terminal advertising, when we did the last analysis for that concession opportunity, it yielded a 13% goal, 13.5% goal. That was probably 6 years ago, 5 years ago. And we got 100% participation through race-neutral means. So that's why you see 0%. It's not that there's no participation, it's that we cannot justify, establishing a goal for something that we have exceeded and continue to exceed, and they want you to get your participation through race-neutral methods first. That does not mean an ACDBE won't win that contract. That's even better. I mean, we really, hope that happens. The same thing with these other ones. I mean, the irregular route service you saw at the beginning slide when we did the base calculation, there's only one firm in the market area, but that doesn't mean there aren't firms out there that can do this service to the airport. Same thing with taxi dispatch. Taxi dispatch, when we did the goal setting for the previous 3 years, there was no goal on it either. And guess what? We got 100% ACDB participation. And that's been in place for like 5 years now. So we have to justify setting a goal. And every opportunity, the government does not require you to set a goal for every opportunity. You set a goal based on, the data. And it's a very in-depth process. And I skipped over food and beverage and retail. Those are existing contracts. They don't expire during this goal setting period. And we actually, when these goals were set, retail, the 20% participation you see up there, it wasn't the goal. It's not the goal. The goal was 15%. But consistently, we've achieved 20%. And all that participation above 15%, I still count it in what we're going to do, because that is the expectation, and that has been ongoing while those concessions have been in operation. So the step one base figure based on the gross receipts came up with 17%. That's just step one. So remember, I also said, it's a two-step process, and you have to look at not only the goal that you come up with based on the numerical availability of firms, but also based on the gross receipts those firms earn. You have to look at a number of things or available information in your jurisdiction, and most airports use their past participation. Some consultants in some airports only look at like a couple of years. I look at 5 years. I looked at 5 years, and I always consistently have, because a lot of things have happened. We had the pandemic, which it's surprisingly we got more participation than we thought. And the goals that were set in the past, you can see, and 2021 is just now over, so we certainly don't have those numbers in there, but I looked at the last 5 years of what the airport had achieved. And as you see there, in every year since 2016, the airport has overachieved its goals. So I say that to say, goals are a floor, not the ceiling. There are opportunities beyond what you see there. In other words, like in the retail business, food and beverage business, they buy things all the time. They buy goods and services too. You know, the goals are based on the concession operation themselves, but there are opportunities potentially for one to provide goods and services. So those aren't in those numbers, so understand that as well. But, you know, based on the goal setting for the actual concession operations, I mean, the airport has done quite well. So then, you know, that step 2 adjustment yielded a median of 21% participation. So I look at all that. The adjustment factors, the past participation. I looked at the availability of firms for new opportunities, and there are not that many. And then you have to do this math. I don't create this. The federal government makes us average our base figure and our median participation. And so we're proposing 19.9% participation for non-carbon concessions for 2022 through 2024. And you see the goal says 14.75% of that 19% through race-conscious measures. That is because the goals that are on the food and beverage and retail are race-conscious goals. When those contracts were let many years ago, there had been 10% goals. And, you know, as I came in to be the consultant for the airport and started looking at things, I said the airport can do 15% in both categories. You probably can do more. And as I alluded to earlier, they did do more. And on the retail side, and food and beverages at 15%. So those contracts are in place. They won't expire. And then the other is 4.34% through race-neutral measures, as I mentioned earlier, you know, doing that outreach, you know, some of the training things that we talked about. And that is based on the fact that in taxi dispatch, in our advertising concession, you know, we have that race-neutral participation. So I didn't set a goal for those, and we expect to get participation in those opportunities through race-neutral measures. So that would be the proposed goal for non-car rental. Now, I'm going to stop right there because the next part I'm going to talk about is rental car, because I want to answer questions. I want you to ask questions. Yes, ma'am. Can you come up so we can?
Okay, the first thing is, I might have been calculating incorrectly. It seemed to me that the base 1 figure was actually 35% and not, go one forward. 15 and 20, 15, 25. Is that 35%? I don't know. And on the bottom, we have 17%. So I don't really know what that means, but then the next question is...
Wait a minute, I want to answer your first, because
okay.
I'm not understanding your first question, ma'am.
Is this a cumulative total? 15 plus 20 equals 17? Is that what we're looking at?
No.
No? Okay, so that means something.
You're looking at the total dollars, the estimated total dollars, which
Okay.
should come up to 32,181. And you divide the estimated dollars
Okay.
from ACDBs into that number, that gives you the 17%.
Okay, so I was reading that incorrectly. I thought that we were just adding that down.
Okay.
And then I was wondering, are we saying that the availability of ACDBE vendors is what's driving the goal, or the goal?
No,
Okay.
That's exactly right, because I'll go back to
And because we don't have vendors that are registered with those NAICS code to fill those spots, then the
right.
goal.
And yes, and that's why we're at the mercy of the community, and why we have this stakeholder consultation, because you all may know firms that aren't certified, that are minority and women-owned businesses that don't even know about certification. They're not in any directory. We look at, you know, like I said, companies that have looked at our opportunities in the past to identify firms. Some of those firms are out of business now, so you can't include them. But we try to be as precise as we can in terms of identifying companies. We have to, like I said, use not just that certification as a measure of who's out there, but also if they're certified as a minority-owned firm, a woman-owned firm, and any firm that may be eligible, but you have to have some proof that they're a minority or woman, so you have to use those other directories and other sources. In some of the market areas, I use like the DC Department of Supplier Diversity Directory, because I established a market area that included DC. So in Maryland, and national opportunities, I look at the national directory. So yes, I mean and that's why we have these consultations, because we can only go based on the information that's readily available. There may be companies that are out there that we're just not aware of, or that aren't aware of us. So we try to do a lot of outreach to make people aware. The other thing I will say too, around, I don't care if it's the DBE program or the ACDBE program. The DBE program we sort of talked about this morning around the construction projects, but there are opportunities that may not count toward the goal by law. For example, when concessionaires build out space in an airport, the construction doesn't count, but that doesn't mean they can't hire a certified firm or a minority-owned firm or a woman-owned firm. The same thing, on the concession side. If they buy goods and services to operate that concession, all those things you buy in the airport when you're traveling, those are sourced by those companies. They may not count in these numbers, and they may if the companies are certified. But there's opportunities, when you're looking to do business with them. So, keep that in mind as well. Yeah. Are there other questions on the?
Yes, I have a question, ma'am.
Oh, hi.
Yeah, hi. I appreciate your thoroughness in explaining the methodology. In all objectivity, I feel that the Commission's methodology in setting goals, in this case for ACDBE goals, is somewhat passive.
Okay.
What I mean is that it is not reaching out to higher goals. It's based on actual unknown and underdeveloped data, first of all, because a lot of small businesses are out there.
That's right.
Maybe 10% are registered with certification. And also another question about the ACDBE methodology in certifying themselves. Would be great for the public to know more about how to be certified. So certification, process, definition, education is very important. Also, second thing is more outreach to the real people out here, right? So you can't continue to use data. Data can be very poor and can be outdated. And you have to be more aggressive in outreaching to the community, because there are many. I can't believe there are 6 categories that you cannot find people who are participating. But I know that you said, although they're 0%, but you are all set because you use existing contracts that are already active.
Okay.
Right? So if you do that, then you can progress.
Let me explain a couple of things. Yes, I'll start with the back end. Yes, we use it because we are required by law to look at certain information. One of those are what we'll call bidders lists. I think everybody's sort of familiar with that. Those are people who I will call seekers of opportunities at the airport. And so we look first, well, I won't say first, but that's only one source. The other source are the directories of certified firms that are from the Small Business and Supplier Diversity that are maintained. And those directories contain everybody who is certified as a small woman minority-owned business, DBE certified, ACDB certified business. We have to do that. That is a requirement. We don't set that rule. The federal government says you have to use sources of data that are going to give you availability. So that's not us. We're not being passive. That's what we have to do. Second, I agree with you. Always more outreach needs to be done, and that is why Mr. Miller and the commissioners and the Richmond team are starting to do more events. You heard Mr. Miller talk about the strategic plan. Part of that strategic plan is the Richmond, Virginia business community and reaching out. And there has been a lot of outreach behind the scenes that you may not be aware of from the airport. You probably will hear about it when you go to the roofs. But the airport, all airports need to do more outreach. And all business organizations that we outreach to, you know, often, as Mr. Peden was talking about earlier, you know, how we blasted out all the information about this event. 243 people signed up. Where are they? This is a great turnout, but where are all these people? So, I mean, it works both ways, and that's why it's important for us to have these kinds of sessions, and we are required to make sure that for our goal setting, that we let you know that methodology, how it happens, and all of those things to get the kind of input you're giving. So we appreciate that. And, you know, we'll definitely, you know, be considering all the comments if they have a bearing on the methodology. But our hands are somewhat tied, but we have to make sure that you all know about opportunities, and you have to let your you know, we send stuff out to, I know your organization well. You are very good at making sure information gets out. But some of the organizations, you know, we ask them to share it with their members, and they don't even post it on their website. I mean, that's an ongoing problem, not just here, but, you know, a lot of places. I mean, we reach out in various ways because, you know, you get 5, 6 people in the airport, and we try to touch as many people. We sent this out to 50,000 firms. So we are trying. And so just know that you see these numbers, and this is what I'm talking about. We got to get more firms in the pipeline. We got to make sure more firms are aware. So thank you. Other questions?
Hi. I hope, yes, okay, sorry. Okay, I'm just going to hold it.
Okay.
I hope I can formulate my question properly. This is specifically regarding the food and beverage concessionaires you talked about, and I believe, if I understood correctly, you said that the 15% or whatever would be that those concessionaires specifically are ACDB certified, correct?
Yes.
But that anybody who may supply them may not be counted amongst that 15%, correct?
Okay, let me, sorta, okay. The food and beverage concession at the airport is a joint venture between 2 firms. The 15% is the ACDBE that participates in that opportunity. The suppliers of goods and services are not in that number. But what I am also saying is that if you wanted to supply goods and services to a concessionaire and be counted as an ACDBE provider, you would have to be certified. That does not mean you can't supply to them. It just means that that participation would never be seen as ACDB participation. You would be a participant in the contract.
Okay, so that helps me formulate my question.
Okay.
So I own Square One Organic Cocktail Company. We make both spirits, canned cocktails, and non-alcoholic cocktail mixers that would be sold in a airport bar or restaurant. We are obviously sold through a distribution system, not direct, and we wouldn't be a direct concessionaire. We are national, we bank certified. So how would we go about, because we are certified, dealing with whomever your concessionaires are at the airport to put our products in front of them for them to perhaps choose us as a tier 2 diverse supplier, both for whether they track tier 2 spend or not, but either way for us to have the opportunity, since we aren't a direct concessionaire. Do we go through the airport buyers of or people who work for the airport that assign the concessionaires, or do we have to go through the actual concessionaire like, say, Aramark?
You have to go through the actual concessionaire. They are the buyer. The airport is the buyer of the concession operation. Once those concessionaires are in place, then they are the people that you would need to talk to to get your product in front of them. And if you're certified, I would encourage you to make sure you meet these folks while you're here today.
And so last question is then how do we go about finding who your, for example, food and beverage concessionaires are? Again, whether it's an Aramark.
Russ?
I can help you that right now. I can introduce you to the folks, the VP of Delaware North and the general manager of the store, so we can facilitate that interaction today. Thank you. Okay.
And they're here, so.
So please make sure that you get with us after.
Yes.
We can certainly have that conversation.
Okay, are there other questions on the non-car rental goals? Okay. And if you notice, I'll leave you with this last point. I mean, we came up in the base figure with only 17%, but at the end of it, after the adjustment, it's up to 19%. I mean, that's the median, and we actually added, to it because we believe we can get that, and we also believe, based on, I know when you leave here, you're going to make sure everybody knows that there are concession opportunities at the airport. You're going to make sure, right? Yes? Okay. All right. All right, now we're going to talk about rental car goods and services. And as I started out mentioning, we don't set the rental cars on gross revenue because there are no companies. I mean, you know who runs car rental concessions, Avis, Budget, Hertz, you know them all, and they're not small businesses. And in the goal setting arena in the federal world, you have the option to set goals on purchase of goods and services because that's likely where those companies are going to get participation. They don't franchise anymore. Their operations or any of that haven't for years. So when we look at who provides goods and services to the airport, this methodology was a little bit different in that we know numbers of companies that provide goods and services in most cases because that is a required reporting item from our concessionaires. They have to tell us, where did you spend your dollars and, how many companies does that represent? The only requirement is, though, that they have to tell us which firms were ACDBE certified. So we know who the ACDBE certified firms are. In most cases, those firms are not, located in Virginia. There have only been a few over the years that have participated in the car rental goods and services opportunities. And so to justify this market area, one of the things we did was say, wait a minute, let's look at these directories. Let's see who's out there based on the list of opportunities that car rentals provided to us. And so we decided, well, hey, there's a lot of firms that can potentially, well, not a lot in all categories, but there are a lot of firms that could potentially provide goods and services to the car rental companies. So the market area is the state of Virginia. It's the whole Commonwealth. There are potentially 29 different types of opportunities this time, and we'll get to that in a minute. In the last goal setting period, and I'll tell you where the goods and services information comes from. I want to be clear about that. We reach out to the car rental agencies and ask them, what do you anticipate buying over the next 3 years? They give us the information. It comes in different forms, but they give us the information. And when I say 29, the last time we asked for that information, they gave us 5 categories. This time they gave us 29 categories. And so I took the dollars pretty much and broke them down over 3 years, and this is what the car rentals anticipate spending over the next 3 years at Richmond International Airport, $141 million, so pretty hefty amount of money and a lot of goods and services. And here are those, and I apologize if you can't see the slide well. And this presentation will be made available, but you see all the various opportunities there, everything from, you know, auto repair to insurance, you know, sludge removal, things like that. They need locksmiths. I mean, it's amazing that, you know, of all these car rental companies that operate on this airport, the locksmith that they use is not even local. I mean, there's got to be a locksmith. There's got to be somebody who can be certified who can do that work. They use services like pest control. They use landscaping services sometimes. I mean, these are the things they said that we are potentially going to have at Richmond International Airport over the next 3 years. And so by those NAICS codes, and then again, the same methodology, you know, the step one, finding the firms, the potential availability. This is all in the Commonwealth of Virginia, the whole state. 776 total firms, but in, you know, some categories, as I said, there are more firms than in other categories. When you look at all of the firms in the Commonwealth and you do that math, you come up with 3.6% availability. Same step two adjustments. We looked at the last 5 years of participation in the car rental concessions based on the goal. And you'll see that the 2019 and 20, that the airport exceeded its goal, even during the pandemic. But I don't want you to get excited about that, because I'm not excited about it, neither is the airport, because that participation, 78% of it came from one firm. One firm. There's too many opportunities for only one firm. And I'm making this point because as we go on, you'll see why it's important. And when I say one firm, I don't mean one car rental firm. I mean one ACDBE firm out of all the car rental agencies that operate on this airport. So when I did the adjustment, you know, of course, the past participation was a factor. The fact that there will be additional goods and services opportunities that weren't there before, or they didn't offer before, and of course, the availability of the ACDBEs that you just saw on that last slide. So we did the same math. You know, the step one base figure of 3.6%, median past participation. Our proposed goal is 2.58% for car rental goods and services purchases. And you'll notice that this entire goal is to be accomplished through race-conscious measures. And remember I said, you know, you have to justify when you do race-conscious. Well, the last 2 years, the airport exceeded its goal. And, you know, it's hard to justify. Well, why is she saying you have to justify race-conscious measures? It's for the reason I told you. Only one firm, one ACDBE firm, has participated. Most of the dollars have gone to one firm. So there is still a need for race-conscious measures and setting goal in that manner for car rental. Does anyone have questions? Yes, ma'am.
What category did that one firm provide service?
Insurance. It's insurance. Yes, sir. Did you have your hand? Oh, I thought you had your hand up. Okay.
Do you have any data on the airlines themselves and what they may need?
We don't, well, it's a good question. I don't, maybe the airport does, I don't think so, but what we have what we've done in this presentation this time, which you all will all get and have access to if you haven't gotten it already, we have tapped into all of their supplier diversity programs. So that you have the airlines, you have UPS, you have FedEx. You just have to click on them and you will find that information. And that is something that we had not done in the past. Are there other questions?
I happen to know for a fact that United Airlines has a massive supplier diversity program initiative right now that I think is in excess of $1 billion. So dig in and find out who does what you do, because they're looking, they don't have enough. And quite frankly, they said, if you are a double minority, women and race, that's where they have the biggest need.
Yeah. Yeah, so you will have access to United's program, American, Southwest, all of them, because they too, I mean, they buy like amazing amounts of stuff for all of us travelers, so. Other questions?
What type of insurance? What type of insurance?
I think it's liability. I'd have to go back to my notes, but it's in that NAICS code that I have up here. I think it's liability in the insurance services. But I'm almost sure it is. And it's one firm that's doing it. So we need you all to help us find some other folks who can get certified and that can participate in some of these opportunities, because that's, there's some good money and good opportunity with these agencies. And, we're going to make sure that they reach out to you, because that's part of what the airport does. I mean, one of the things that we have to do is we have to monitor all of the participation that happens in these programs. The airport has to enforce it. And, the concessionaires here, they know me. I call y'all up and say, are you doing what you're supposed to be doing? And the airport staff. But we want to make sure, that folks are aware of opportunities, because there are lots of them. We need your help to do that. If there are no other questions, I'll go on. I mean, the next thing we have to do is submit these proposed goals to the Federal Aviation Administration so they can review the methodology that I just explained to you. 2.58 for rental car goods and services. And that may seem like a low number, but it really isn't when you put it all in perspective. And then, 19.09% of the gross receipts for all other concessions. And again, these goals are going to cover, it says October 1st, 2022, which has passed through September 30th. And you may ask, well, why are we just seeing this? Well, our CEO in his wisdom wanted to make sure that in this Business Opportunities Forum that we included concessions, not just had a separate stakeholder meeting. So we asked the FAA to allow us to extend the deadline for submission. So that's why. I mean, there's still, the goals are be in place, but they will cover that period. And again, FAA reviews the methodology, and if they don't find any issue with it, I mean, we just, move forward with the implementation. I can't hear you. They can't. I can hear you. They can't hear you.
Yeah, who provide the certification training, and how often?
Who provides the certification training?
ACDBE.
I would imagine the Department of Small Business and Supplier Diversity and Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority, because those are the certifying agencies. I know Richard Gordon is here from Small Business Supplier Diversity that could probably better answer your question, because that's who, I mean, I see the trainings all the time. I mean, I still get, they do training on certification, how to do business, all of that. And that is the kind of information that I'm also suggesting that, the trade associations, the trade groups, business owners, some of the primes, when you guys, get this information, send it out to your network of companies that you subcontract with, they may not be subcontractors on the airport, they may be subcontractors with you on other projects, but let them know about, these opportunities, because that also helps them grow. So, that, again, and they have a table right inside as soon as you walk in the exhibit hall to get more information on certification. It's also something that you can share with your members. There are also links on the airport's website. And I mean, it's very instructional. It tells you exactly what to do. And of course, people do need help. And I know that because I help people, sometimes with their certification. But a lot of information and training sessions that do happen around that. Are there other questions, comments, concerns? Okay. Well, thank you.
Milan, that's a great question on the certification, and we're lucky to have two groups today that I wanted to bring out. I'll bring them up now, but from the federal government, we have Sherelle Talaferro with the Small Business Administration, and she is here working around, networking around, talking to people. If you need to speak to her, Sherelle, would you stand, please? Small Business Administration, federal government here, if you had questions regarding, there's a lot of neat things. I've learned over time that the programs offered for small businesses through the SBA, there's a lot of powerful programs there, a lot of great ways, mentorship, business development, business analysis, training programs. Talk to Sherelle, because that's where I get these emails all the time in terms of, okay, opportunities to look at your business, bringing in people that are retired that can provide technical assistance to a developing business. They can evaluate, hey, you're on the right path, you need to make some tweaks, whatever. SBA programs, look at that. It's really an opportunity.
I would concur with you there, because I'm a beneficiary of all that they have to offer. It's awesome.
My friend here and fellow Marine, we had good opportunities. So that's, again, testament to Small Business Administration to utilize those programs. So, Sherelle, there's people here that may want to talk to you. Please connect. And if you need to help me out, I'll help you out with that as well. On the other side, with the state, we have the Department of Small Business and Supplier Diversity. I've got Richard Gordon. Richard Gordon's here. They have a table in the exhibit hall next door. So that is your, as Nancy mentioned, your conduit right here in Richmond for certification, training, access, education, and the actual process of certification, getting you set up if you're eligible. So please look at that. And we've also brought in 3 groups. I call them my partners with the Asian Chamber of Commerce, Milan Tran. I also have Michelle Zajour with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Michelle was here earlier. He may be floating around. And I also have folks from the Metropolitan Business League. I don't know if they're here, but they've got tables next door. And those are conduits to, again, the small businesses, the constituents in those various groups, all important. And then opportunities in terms of tying into our concessions, but also with the as conduits to get information about this program to those groups. And if we can do anything to help foster that, support that, I'm all ears for better ways of doing it. This is one method. It's not the only way, but it's if there's a better way of doing this, I'm all for putting that to work. I missed one person in terms of wanting to pass, and that was Bridget Biagas. She mentioned to me before that she, with Hudson, our retail partner, has several gifts that wanted to go be basically a card in the hat or card in the basket for a drawing after this event. So if you please go to her booth, see her, get a card in her hand, get a card in the basket. They've got several gifts, have to be present to win, but definitely see the Hudson Group. And again, thank you, Bridget, for that. Jumping back to the format or the agenda, I wanted to talk about our partnerships with our retail and concession partners, our food and beverage partner, and give them the opportunity to share, as we did with the construction side, for you all to hear from our partners and their partners in terms of joint venture or collaborations in their businesses at the airport. I'm going to start off with Delaware North, and I'm going to ask that James Wilson come up and share a few words from the Delaware North perspective, and also to introduce his special guest. And then we'll follow that up with, last but not least, our partners with Hudson. James. James is the VP of Business Development for Delaware North, a longtime friend, and I welcome him to the podium.
Thank you. And since it's just after Veterans Day, I want to give a special shout out to all of our veterans in the room. And I will introduce you to a couple of veterans in a few minutes. I'm with Delaware North. I'm responsible for new business development throughout the country for our company. Our company is the only American-owned, North American-owned, family-owned business that does what we do in the country. We have 6 lines of hospitality. We operate some 49 different sporting arenas, either ballparks or national fields. We have a number of hotels that are associated with national parks. We operate the Kennedy Space Center among those. We have a gaming division that prints money for us, which has been our saving grace during this pandemic, because people need to get rid of some of their money every now and then. Our Boston Holdings division actually owns the TD Gardens, and the family owns the Boston Bruins, so you get a sense of how that connection is. The Boston Celtics are our tenants there. We have a group of restaurateurs, mostly on the east and west coast, the Los Angeles and New York City area. It's the Patina Group. We acquired them about 6 years ago, and they do fine dining in a number of locations, including, I forgot to mention, the Orlando Disney Springs. So we do a number of good restaurants in that. The division that I work out of is the travel division. We're responsible for airport concessions. We do food and beverage and retail concessions in a number of airports around the country, some 25 or 26 of them, and also 9 international airports that we operate. In each line of our business, we try very hard to reach out to small businesses in the community in which we operate, because the owners of the company have a strong commitment to making sure that local participation is involved in everything we do. Fortunately, in my part of the business, the airport travel business, it's a little bit more structured because of what Nancy was talking about. There are goals that are set by airports and say, you don't come and do business here, right, Mr. Miller, unless you bring somebody here in to work with you. In the case of airports concession, we usually do our participation through either purchasing of goods and services on a local basis. We sublease some locations to fully operational vendors to let them come in and run their own. I'm not going to give many opportunities for somebody to come and run their own hot dog stands, but if you've got a brand that you've got on the street, we can help you bring that into the airport space. The last way of doing it is through a joint venture. We have, in this particular market, a joint venture partner who makes up the 15% that you saw on Nancy's presentation. That joint venture partner is not from Richmond directly, but has been in business with us at a number of airports. And the Superior Hospitality Group and their leader, Tyrone Nabby, operates with us in 3 airports in Florida. well, two, soon to be third, coming up pretty soon in Florida. And we gave him the opportunity to come up here to Richmond and replace an individual that was retiring from business. And I think Tyrone has done a pretty outstanding job. Before I go any further, I wanted to point out my colleagues that are in the room, because once I'm done here, once we go to the networking, you can hit any one of us to help you figure out what you can possibly do with us. And I'll introduce them in order of importance. The general manager of our business here in this location is Ms. Joanna Wheeler. Joanna. Her regional reporting vice president is Bob Phillips, sitting next to her. In my right hand and out of Buffalo is Chelsea Caballero. Now, when Tyrone joined our team here in Richmond, one of the very first things he did was reach out to the Metropolitan Business League. Thanks to Russ's introduction to us, we got Tyrone involved in the Business League, and Floyd Miller from the Business League was very instrumental in helping Tyrone reach out to the local community to find some help. We were looking for goods, services, professional chefs, anybody that can come and make our business a little bit better in the airport. And I want to introduce two of the people that were introduced to Tyrone. I'll let them tell their story. But before they tell their story, I want to make sure that I talk about the pain and the shortage of ready, willing, and able people to come and work for us. We in the airport space, in the hospitality space, need people to work. You got friends, family members who are looking for a job, we can employ them very quickly. As with any other business, hospitality for many people are the entryway into the workforce. And we take them under our wings and we train them as best we possibly can. Now, I want to introduce the couple that Tyrone reached out to and found, and let them tell their story. A couple of Army veterans who kind of met in the service and hung together for a long time. Chef Ty and Chef Reggie Hall. And I'm standing away from my friend Chef Ty because my suit has some wool element into it, and she's allergic to wool.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning.
I don't hear y'all. Good morning. Okay, I know we have listened to a lot, right? Right? We've listened to a lot. Hopefully we've taken some notes. First and foremost, I cannot be who I am without my right hand. That is my husband.
Who, me?
Yeah, that's it. We are known throughout this area as TNR Catering. That was our catering company that we had before COVID. Mm-hmm. I am a private chef. I am also, my background is I was served in the military. I'm a nurse. I'm still a nurse. I walked away from nursing to pursue what was my life's passion, which is food. Hospitality and the gifting of hospitality is something that is at the very root of who I am. I am not a Richmond native, but I have lived here for over 15 plus years. My husband born and raised here. We came here, or for me, I came here right after finishing up my time in the Army. And when I got here, I had to find my way. And cooking has always been my voice. It was the way that I could communicate how I felt and made people feel comfortable around me. As a result, my husband pushed me to go back to school. One of the things about me going back to school and me knowing that it was definitely my calling, my grandmother, who had me in the kitchen from the age of 5 until 9 years old when I cooked my first Thanksgiving dinner for our whole family, okay? She passed away in 2010. I then decided at that point and after her blessing to go back to school. For that purpose, I went, logged on. My first teacher's name was Kevin Nana. significant because my grandmother was called my Nana. That's what I called her. And my Uncle Kevin had just passed away. So that right there, looking on that screen, was letting me know that I was getting ready to start living what was supposed to be my true calling. From that, the two of us, developed our catering company. The T&R represents all of us. So that's me, my husband, and our 3 children. It's all of our initials. We wanted it to be something that was a family legacy, something that any one of our children could pick up the mantle and run with. About 2 years ago, he decided that we were going to do more than just catering, and we were going to come up with an umbrella company, kind of like General Mills and like Kellogg's and everybody up underneath there. And I'll let him tell you that part.
Okay. How you got? I'm Reggie. I'm the other part. I'm the guy who drives the car, wash the dishes.
Take the orders.
Yeah. Take the orders. CSC, Common Sense Cuisine. I came up with that name because it was just, she's the chef. Now, people call me a chef, but she has the student loans, I don't. So she's certified all the way. So Common Sense Cuisine came up for me to be able to make sense of some of the things that she may make a little complicated. So that's where I came up with that. Yeah, because sometimes you're a little complicated. So I have to make it a little plain. With that, I wanted to make sure that people understood what we were about, making sure that our service was A1. Food is great, but the service is everything. Sometimes if your service is not up to par, then the food might taste okay. But if your service is awesome, then that gives you another level to your food. And with that, we came up with a year ago, Hook's Lunchbox, which is our food truck. And in paying tribute to my father, his name was Hooks, and he passed a few years ago. And my dad always carried a lunchbox to work, but you never knew what it's in. It could have been a peanut butter jelly sandwich, or it could have been filet mignon. You never knew. And that concept is our food truck. You never know what's in the box. But with that being said, we just make sure that we just continue to give great service and also great food. And I keep on saying service because we are service members. And if you're not, if anything, we're service. We're service first, And if you don't display that, then you're not really doing yourself a service. We are, everybody in here are servants because we're doing our best to basically treat the customers to an awesome experience. So with that,
We'll segue into how we got into the airport.
Oh, yeah, do that, because I'll just be rambling.
I know. Move. So, the product and service that we have inside the airport is another company up under our umbrella. It's called Gourmet Hemp Foods. What set it apart was we are the hot sauce that has omega-3, 6, and 9, which is a complete balance. So you don't have to go to your salmon for your omega-3, and you don't have to take other fish oil or other supplements. We don't have any medical or health claims, but just know that we use locally sourced hemp seeds and cold-pressed hemp oil. That's what sets our sauce apart. It's also what put us on the map. We have done little to no advertising for the most part, and I will say this and hope that I offend no one. God has always been our source. He has provided everything that we have ever needed, and He has opened every door. Our name has been spoken in rooms that we have yet to enter, and it will continue to do that because we keep Him first. Okay. Oh, thank you. At the base of who we are, how we got here is because someone named Floyd Miller mentioned us to Tyrone. And at the time he called, we answered the phone. And if you didn't hear what I said, we did not let opportunity pass us. We answered the phone. So that one time where it may be scam likely could be your opportunity to be on this stage this time next year saying that you answered the phone. Our hot sauce and our barbecue sauce is not just in the airport. We have now made it to Food Lion. We are, and again, this is with no commercial. It's just being diligent, making sure that we provide A1 service. We are blessed and very fortunate, and we thank you so much for giving us the opportunity. And just like we have the opportunity to be on the shelf, or where someone can now go past TSA and take us on that flight to the next location for us to be mentioned in another place that we have yet to enter. This could be your opportunity. So with that, I'll open it up if you have any questions. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for sharing your story. It actually touched me. I actually came here and I own a retail company for clothing, but I actually own a gourmet company as well called P.O.W.E.R. Delectables. And your story touched me in the fact that you were talking about cooking your first Thanksgiving.
Let it out.
No.
Take a moment, take a deep breath.
That really touched me because my father brought me into the kitchen. He passed away, but that's how I started cooking. At the age of 17, I cooked my first Thanksgiving meal. And my company, P.O.W.E.R. Delectables, is actually based on all of my recipes that I do at the holidays. And I think you two are a blessing to everyone in this room in sharing your story, and especially the service that you do. I actually was, right before COVID started, I was about to be placed in Harris Teeter. And the young lady called me up, and 2 weeks into March, a couple years ago when COVID started, she said, "Stephanie, I'm so sorry." She said, "But Harris Teeter is no longer taking any vendors indefinitely." So we had gone through the whole process. Literally, it was like a feather away of getting into retail and proving our record and all these wonderful things. But it's so exciting to hear that. And I just wanted to share from my perspective that you touched my heart today. And thank you for sharing.
You're very welcome.
And it's still gonna, it's gonna happen.
Harris Teeter wasn't your market.
I agree with that.
And you have to look, like everything that happens, right? You have to look for that silver lining. And it's cliche to say it, but, and I'll be as bold as I can be, Food Lion had to come to me more than one time before I say yes. Because the dollars didn't make sense.
Yeah.
We put our heart and our soul into whatever service that we provide. And that goes for anyone who makes a candle, to stitching something. You know what it takes to put into that. You do not let someone else put a monetary value on who you are. You have to stand for it, because if not, they're going to mark it up and make their money.
Yeah.
You have to. You have to be willing to be strong in your conviction, and know that just because you were brought to that point, it showed you everything you need for you to go to where you belong.
I believe it.
Hopefully that helps someone. If there's anything else, we're going to be over there. We have a place at the table.
There you go.
The other thing I'll tell you, and that goes for everyone here, if no one invites you to the table, get a hammer and some nails and build your own damn table. What? Okay? 2020 showed that to all of us. We're all expendable, but we also have a measure and a gift and a talent that is deep in all of us. And if you don't believe in it and value, no one is going to believe in it for you. And for us, Delaware North believed in us. Okay, we didn't do it for the validation because we didn't know about them. But they saw us, they heard our story. The man, Mr. Miller himself, decided not only to believe in them, but to also give us a chance. And here's the other thing, and the most important thing. When someone mentions your name in a room and you actually open that door, show up and show out, because they put their name on the line for you. Don't let them down.
Yeah.
So the Corps owns the microphone, but the Army did show up, right?
We pick up the gear that they leave behind. Right? I just wanted to say that the two of you touched me as well. Just the presence of a husband and wife-owned business and the fact that you put God first, absolutely amazing. So congratulations to you guys. We've been in business for about 16 years. I took a leap of faith as well when I got out of the military, and God has led the way for me. About 5 years ago, I convinced my wife to stop teaching, and she's now my HR director. So it's interesting how I come here not expecting any of this, to meet a Marine in Russ and to hear a story like that. You know, that's my God telling me that I'm on the right path. So thank you.
Corpsman, have a talk with Mr. Miller. He'll tell you how you convince his wife to stop teaching. Two last things before I go. Nancy said earlier, and there were more than 250 people that signed up to be here today. They're not here. You may know some of them. Reach out to them, because it's only through that kind of networking that we will find out who they are to be able to do business with them. And I'm not going to do the commercial, but Nancy may come back later and do the AMAC commercial, the Airport Minority Advisory Council, the organization that's been responsible for keeping this program alive and well within the Department of Transportation for now 42 years. And if they were not here in person, they definitely have been in spirit. My former chair of the organization, I'm former vice chair of the organization, and Gordon's gone, but he also had a piece of it. Russ?
Thanks again to our partners with DNC, Chef Ty, Chef Reggie. Thank you. Appreciate that very much. That was a powerful story when I heard it, and I'll leave it at that. Next, again, I said last but certainly not least is our partners with Hudson and their partnership with the AMS NIA joint venture. So I want to invite Bridget Biagas up. Bridget is their Vice President of Partner Relations, and I welcome to Richmond. Thank you, Bridget.
Good job with saying that last name. It's not easy. How many people have been to the outreach room next door, to the networking room? That's not enough people. That means you have not seen my beautiful blue table. And I don't have a card from you so that I can give you a gift. So please go next door after this, and winner must be present to receive one of two of our beautiful gifts that we have. So good morning, first of all, good morning. My name is Bridget Biagas, or Biagas as this part of the region says. I'm the Vice President of Partner Relations with Hudson. And on behalf of Hudson, I'm offering my sincerest thank you to the board, to the airport team that put this all together, and thank you to all of you that are in attendance, including our partners, Rosa and Hugo and Tara Presley. Russ asked that I speak a little bit about Hudson and what we do and our local partnership. This is my first outreach event as part of Team Hudson, and I consider this both a privilege and an honor to be here today. I joined Hudson in April of this year in the midst of a pandemic. When I joined Hudson, I became a member of 6,500 team members with one goal in mind, and that's to be the traveler's best friend. As the largest North American retail traveler, we service all the travelers' needs with regard to travel convenience, duty-free retail, specialty retail, and food and beverage. We are a subsidiary of a company called P.O.W.E.R, and we have over a 30-year history in retail throughout the United States. Hudson is located in about 1,000 stores in airports, major transportation centers, and a number of tourist attractions. But we couldn't do any of this without our joint venture partnerships. And we've joint venture partnered across the nation with over 100 local ACDBE partners like Rosa and Hugo Owens and Tara Presley. So how does one become a joint venture partner? Well, I recommend starting early with doing research, identifying opportunities, and networking at events much like this. We mentioned AMAC. I'm a board member of AMAC. You have two members of AMAC, and Nancy and my counterpart with Delaware North. And you can reach out to a number of us, but there are also organizations like ACI and AAAE that you can also take part in learning about the industry and the opportunities that come before you. So Nancy mentioned earlier that airports have an obligation to establish an annual DBE goal and participation goals for an entire program. And that gets dialed down to specific goals in retail and food and beverage, as she outlined. And they differ from airport to airport and contract to contract, given the demographic factors that she outlined. You must be prepared, willing, ready, and able, and James mentioned that earlier. And without getting too far into the weeds of the essence of the ACDBE program, the whole purpose of it is to encourage small business development in an effort to redress historical barriers and to full participation for women and minority businesses in the airport industry. So again, my recommendation is to start early. Don't wait to get certified when you see an interesting opportunity. It's already too late if the opportunity is out on the street and advertised, and the certification process could be a lengthy process. So you must be ready, willing, and able to participate. Without further ado, my partners, Rosa and Hugo Owens, are just that. They are ready, willing, and able. Rosa and Hugo Owens are the CEO and COOs, respectively, of the NIA Corporation. The NIA Corporation was formed with purpose. It's in the name NIA. NIA is Swahili for purpose, and Rosa and Hugo formed the NIA Corporation with the purpose to create a commercially viable business entity. NIA's purpose remains true to its formation, and the Owenses have utilized their knowledge, skills, and abilities to provide goods and services in a number of jurisdictions throughout the United States. The NIA Corporation is a certified ACDBE firm, and this husband and wife team take their responsibilities as joint venture partners seriously. Their responsibilities include the management and control of several partnerships in Virginia, Massachusetts, and New York, New Jersey. The NIA Corporation has a long-standing relationship with Hudson. They began their relationship in 1998 and has successfully grown to include partnerships at about 7 airports, including the Richmond International Airport. Without further ado, please welcome Rosa and Hugo Owens.
Thank you, Bridget, for sharing who we are and our company's history. Greetings all. I just would like to be that ACDBE company. That's who we are. We're talking about the process. And my presentation today will take 2 forms. I am going to do the procedural and bureaucratic part.
And Hugo will wrap it up by addressing doing business with the Greater Richmond International Airport. My portion deals with the ACDBE designation, and I will discuss it in steps, Nancy. A little bit different from yours, of course. First, this term ACDBE, in government types of entities, there's always these acronyms, and I really am learning to accept it. But before you can even do anything, let's talk about how to get into the business. You have to know ACDBE means Airport Concession Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. So you have to get the ticket to get forward. So I'm going to talk about the ticket, and I want to share a little just story. I don't see her right now, but when I was going through some certification, I had the opportunity to meet Elizabeth Goff, and she's with the Virginia Department of Small Business and Supplier of Diversity. And when I saw her here today, I remembered her voice, but I couldn't just place her. But anyway, the short of the story, Nancy mentioned this department, and I will mention it too. But it's very, very important that you make this large process user-friendly. And that's what I'm going to do. And we've been using it since 1999. And you have to contact this department if you want to become an ACDBE. And you contact them. Everything is computerized now, guys. All of the communication, the certification process is on the computer. But I'll just go out on a limb just for a second and say, if you have this card, which I do, if you call her or email her, you probably most likely will get a call back. So put the personal piece in your process. Step one, you know what the acronym stands for. That's the ticket that's going to get you in the door. Step two, contact the certifying agency. And then once you submit your information to Richmond, then you follow up with the information. And all communication is electronic. So either you do it or you have someone at your disposal who's going to respond ASAP. And a part of the continual process is that you have to realize that the airport is a quasi-government entity receiving funds from the federal, state, and local. And as such, that's why you have this. We're in retail, but we also have to be mindful that we have governmental oversight. And one of the agencies would be the FAA, which is a federal agency. Another, the agency is like what I just stated earlier, the Commonwealth of Virginia Department of Small Business and Suppliers of Diversity, that's located right downtown, and the FAA. I conclude by saying that the ACDBE certification and designation is well worth your time and investment. The NEO Corporation has been certified in the Commonwealth of Virginia since 1999. The hardest part of the certification process is getting started. The Greater Richmond Airport is a wonderful partner, as you can see, to work with, and we've been at this Richmond Airport since 2005. Will be available next door to accept any questions and on a one-on-one. But please feel free to come to the Hudson table. I'd like to mention that, we have our general manager of Hudson here. We have Jamil Staten. We also have the RVP here, Todd Tagnisi, and they're sitting right here too. They probably will join and address any questions that you may have. Todd and I go way back. I was a part of the interview process with Todd. So he started out at GM, and now he's a RVP, or Regional Vice President. We have a great team at Hudson, and we have a great opportunity at the Richmond Airport. Thank you, everyone. Hugo.
Good morning. Thank you, Bridget, Russ, all assembled fellow Virginians. I'm taking up where Rosa left off. We're assuming now that you're certified. Now what? The goal is to get business. As an ACDBE, the immediate task is to align your company with a primary or master concessionaire. Airports want to provide goods and services to travelers in the unique airport environment. The airport is a blend of private business with public collaboration as well as participation. To that end, airports distribute RFPs, requests for proposals, describing the goods and services desired. Inherent in the agreement between the successful bidder and the airport is the understanding that the airport is both your landlord and your business partner. An especially weighty decision for an ACDBE is choosing a prime concessionaire to associate with. A good fit is essential for the venture to work. Know your own strengths and do your due diligence to know the prime that you seek to join. This choice should be mutual. If your ACDBE and your prime concessionaire are invited by the airport decision makers for an interview, then you must be persuasive as to why your concept and what you can do is the best choice. There will be competition, stiff competition. After a thorough consideration, assuming you win, an agreement is entered, and it is time for performance. Construction, furnishing, stocking, hiring take place. These measures require financing. You will need to have a relationship with your prime and a bank. You will also need to obtain background check and security clearance, including an ID permitting you access to your locations. Make regular visits and keep an ongoing dialogue with management. The employees should know you. Remember that you share the risk as well as the rewards. I suggest that you engage a CPA and an attorney. Your ACDBE will be monitored by a liaison on the airport staff. In Richmond, that person is Mr. Russ Peden. He is the DBLO officer among his many other responsibilities. Regular reports are expected from your ACDBE. These reports give evidence of your participation in the business. In running your ACDBE, it is advisable to participate in industry associations that will keep you abreast of issues related to the airport concession business, keep you motivated, and enhance your growth and knowledge. Also, there will be opportunities to meet industry leaders and colleagues. Organizations like AMAC, the Airport Minority Advisory Council, or ARRA, the Airport Retail Restaurant Association, meet this necessity. Well, now you have your boarding pass. Don't miss your flight.
Thank you, Rosa and Hugo. So as you all can tell, they have been ready, willing, and able, and remain ready, willing, and able to be our joint venture partners. The FAA requires what we sometimes call skin in the game for your participation. And as Hugo mentioned, the skin in the game is that you are able to participate in capital investment requirements, fulfill distinct roles and responsibilities as they've outlined, and participate in the profits, risk, effort, and skills commensurate with your ownership share of the business. So if we have any questions, I will be at the booth next door. I want everyone to come and visit and drop a card so that I can give away these beautiful gifts. Thank you.
Bridget, again, thank you. Thank you very much. Hugo and Rosa, as a testament, I can, from the day one, 2005, when we picked the Hudson company as for the retail operation, and your presence. So again, I appreciate that every month when I see a tenant manager meeting, rain or shine, you make it up from Norfolk and you're there. So again, we certainly appreciate that. We had mentioned earlier as far as the federal support or just the Small Business Administration, and I want to make sure that, again, Sherelle Taliaferro with the SBA here, please talk to her. Please seek her out if you have questions, whatever. I can't overemphasize the value of the SBA program and how it can help us, how it can help all of us here. Again, if you have any questions, as they've all been talking about this morning with the Small Business and Supplier Diversity Department, with the Virginia's the State Department, SB, Small Business and Supplier Diversity, please stop by and talk to them. Richard has his background at MWA, an airport experience, as well as bring that experience into that department for small business and certification. So any questions on certification, I am not the expert on that. I know enough to find those who do, to talk to them about how they can help you out. Let me just jump ahead back to the slides real quick. Nancy had mentioned earlier on the slides, and you'll see this on the email we'll give you, which has embedded in these logos are the active links to their company's respective supplier diversity operations. So when you get this, literally you click in and you go to the link, and you'll pop up with that link to their supplier diversity. That's a good way to get started. Which now we're almost at the point where we're ready to conclude our presentation. But I wanted to remind you guys, everybody here, one, thank you for coming, but also to, before you leave, make sure you have that booklet. And if you don't have it, I mean, if I have to, I'll make a copy for you here, but we'll make sure that you get that information. It's so important. It's the crux of the meeting that you take away with that document. EVA, if you're not registered in EVA, please consider it. I know there's a few that hadn't done it, but I can't emphasize enough. We can't talk to you. That's our primary method of reaching out. So please utilize that. Also be aware that, as I hear from my procurement office, that EVA is going through a major upgrade in the December timeframe. So if you're trying to get in and you're discovering problems or callback issues or whatever, they're just changing, they're revamping the whole system. So please be patient with that. I know we are, because I've got several RFPs that are out. And I want to take a second to talk about our last slide. And this is one to awareness and thank you for those who are here today to talk to you, to be part of this process, our partners, our folks that we work with, I've worked with over the years, talked to. We've been lucky that we've had the contracting community show up today in a way that I've never had before. So I really appreciate that involvement for Texco, from Highway Paving, from Schnabel, from Gresham and Timmons. Again, thank you for being here as well on that side. And from our partners with the chambers, from the Hispanic Chamber, Michelle, thank you. With the MBL, appreciate that. Floyd, I don't see him here, but again, thank you to his group. As well as, and last but not least, the Asian Chamber of Commerce, Milan, as always, thank you. Rental cars, we've never had, again, this is an opportunity. There's a lot out there. And if you're in your business looking at rental cars, or pass on, I can't emphasize enough, pass on to those who you may think might be interested to talk to our rental car community. There's a lot of things they buy. And I'll leave it with this. The airport is a community. I like it as a small city, a small town. And it has a lot of players. You've met some of them today. There are a lot more out there. I believe I had Cynthia Jansen with Delta was here floating around. I don't know if she's still here or left, but I actually had one of my airline folks here. But reach out and understand that we buy a lot of things. Everything from the classic glamour, big construction, down to the little nuts and bolts. And as I think it was Mr. Wilson put it so, we need lots of labor. And it's anything we can do to help, because as you might have been to the airport, you see stores that are closed. They're not closed because not of interest or lack of interest. They're closed because sometimes it's labor. And you may have encountered that around town or seen places that aren't open at the normal hours anymore because of labor. So again, it's another thing to, if you know somebody, there are job opportunities at the airport. It's just a matter of getting people over there to follow up with those postings that they put out. I see it, but it has an impact, and it's a visual. A lady mentioned today that seeing Applebee's closed. That's not because we don't want Applebee's open. It's because finding cooks that will show up, finding people that will work behind the counter, and bringing in, as Perry Miller mentioned, innovation and technology, still bringing things in terms of making it a little more touchless environment, utilizing ways to order, the grab, the gate delivery type thing. It still takes somebody to do those things. And so whenever we can do, if you have friends that are looking at, hey, I can't find a job, well, there's an opportunity at all different levels. So please, I want to make a pitch on that. And with that, I think we're going to close, but close here only to open up to the networking hall, and please utilize that opportunity to your fullest. I have the room until 1 o'clock. Please use it to its full advantage. I hate to see anybody leave early and not get a business card, not talk to somebody that they wanted to talk to. If you need an introduction and you're looking for somebody, find me. I'll be glad to help put you with the right person. I owe somebody that on several fronts, but utilize this opportunity as a benefit. And if you have questions, you've got our email address. Call me, email me, let us know. And I want to make it as productive a day for you as possible. So with that, thank you for taking the time out of your day to come. I appreciate that. Oh, I have one more comment. Mr. Miller wants to make some comments.
Thank you. You met one of my 14 bosses earlier, and I would be remiss, very remiss, if I didn't acknowledge another commissioner that just did, and I wanted to give Commissioner James Holland, or Jim Holland, an opportunity to be recognized and have a few words if you choose. If not, just kind of. All right, thank you. You guys see my dilemma, the challenge that I have. My grandfather used to say, you know, you could, what is that saying? You could take a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? My dilemma is I have a bunch of money to spend, right? And I need people to help me invest it in the community. My method of getting you to drink is run you till you get thirsty. That's what he said. I can't make you drink, but I can run you till you get thirsty. So my method of running you till you get thirsty is to keep having these kinds of events and making you aware of the opportunities. And I hope you go away with 3 things. 1, get registered with EVA and the Small Business and Supplier Diversity Group, right? Take advantage of the opportunities that are here. And what was my 3rd thing? Let me trust my little. Tell the story about our need. We have lots of opportunities here, and I can't get the word out by myself. I really, really need you to help me enrich the community here. And so that's what I'm here for. My commissioners hired me. They said, we want to invest in this community, and we want you to help lead that effort. So let's get it done. All right, thank y'all.
We've got one more question. We've got a quick one.
I just wanted to take the time. My name is Darrell, the CEO of Chef Joseph's Kick Sauce and Seafood and Mexican Grill out of Virginia Beach. And my partner here, Kaneen, we drove down from Virginia Beach. And I was just in the airport in Norfolk International looking for this actual opportunity and made phone calls. It was all dead end, no conferences like this at all or anything. And I just want to say thank you, because this is actually the answer what we were trying to seek. We were trying to do it and could not get in, and this is it. So I just want to tell you, we would like to tell you thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.